Audio good, visual good.
Looks good. Sounds good.
All
good.
right,
Yeah.
Ryan, thank you for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
All right, so let's talk a little bit about what you do. So I found your Instagram. Let's see if I can do both at the same time. Let's see. I think I can. I think we can get fancy here. Okay, so so your Instagram is manufactured memory, and I
Correct.
found you through. I don't know if it was just recommended to me or if it was a sponsored ad. Did you ever do any sponsored ads?
I did. Early on, I did one just to see kind of how it works, right? So I have a personal Instagram that I've had since, the pre-Meta, pre-Facebook Instagram, the good one, the old one, the one that replaced Hipstamatic back in the day. And it was, I'm very familiar with the platform, but I'd never done it from like the business side, right? So I have a business profile, and I was just kind of poke around. It's like, hey,
Yeah,
$5 and we'll run this ad for you,
yeah.
$5. I was like, oh, let's try it. So yeah, I
Been there.
did do it. And what's that?
I said, been there, definitely. It's a great tool. It's great.
Yeah, it is. But especially for kind of what I do, I don't know if it's very advertisable. First of all, there's no money stream. I'm not a business. I just, basically signed up for a business account to use their scheduling tools, right? Because,
Yeah.
and I might get into this later, but I'm not there most of the time, right? I kind of I kind of bulk things, maybe every week I'll kind of content plan, I'll get it all ready, and then I'll get comments coming in through the day, and I'm just like, I wonder what they're talking about, because I can't remember like what's posting. But anyway,
Yeah.
it's just kind of a strange niche. It's not
What
really
really attracted me to your account and to your art is, for those of you who don't know, we'll insert some images, but you do AI generated art. And
correct.
a lot of it that I noticed has a very retro aesthetic. And like I said, people can kind of see it for themselves. But go ahead and just kind of, for those who don't know or who are just getting introduced to you, like, let's talk about what manufactured memory is.
Sure. All right. This is going to be my origin story. Okay.
Okay, cool.
So about a month and a half ago, maybe, right? So I kind of got turned on a year ago to the AI generated prompts, the same way a lot of people did through kind of a YouTube video. And you're just like, what is this? This is and then there's these crazy beta lists. And it was like, all right, I'm just going to throw my name at these betas and just see if I get in. Because of my background, sometimes I'm able to get into those things earlier, because of my profession. And just kind of waited and watched a bunch of really great TikToks and YouTubes about, people using these tools, and just kind of sat there thinking about it. We went on a family trip. My wife and my two kids and I went on a little road trip. We went, we did Asheville. We did some places in Tennessee, and, stayed in a cabin. And about halfway through that vacation, I got an invite to Dali. So I was like, oh, cool. So signed up, all that stuff. And that was it. Like, I started to, as anybody does, I just started like, can I do this? Can I do this? Oh, it does anime. It can do this. It can, all of these different, it's mind blowing. And it's just a complete paradigm shift,
Yeah.
So then I just kind of, I was up basically through the night. I couldn't put it down. And I just had all these philosophical questions, right? I come from an art background.
Okay.
So the art part, art, photography, music, all of those things are very important to me in creating. But really, the thing about this specifically that I enjoy is just the philosophy, right? Like, what does it mean, right? It's
Yeah.
something that came out of nowhere, pretty much, and is something that still to this day to me feels like total magic, right? Like, it's impossible. Like, how is AI art even possible?
And like,
And when you look at,
we love is, Uncanny Valley. This is like the epitome of Uncanny Valley in
absolutely,
some of these. And other of these, you look at some of them and you're like, oh, that's a real picture. Like, you took that and you're just,
yeah,
pranking us basically. And you're like,
it's
no, it's all
it's
generated.
incredible. And these companies, they're not even a year old, right? This is like a very new thing.
Mhm.
So anyway, it just sucked me in right away. I'm like, I wonder if it knows this. What if it knows a platypus? What if I did a platypus that's a DJ? You go through all these permutations, and And actually, if you follow a lot of AI generated Instagrams, that's what you see most of, is like samurai pandas with laser swords, or like cyberpunk cityscapes and this really cool stuff. But, I was really trying to push its limits. And then I realized, well, if this AI is being trained on these images from us, right? How far back does it go? And I started trying things, a penny farthing in the 1920s. I was like, it's been trained on that. And it just kind of occurred to me, like, wait a minute, I'm able to generate new memories based off of the memories that other people already had. And something about that just really blew my mind, right? So I dove deeper and I dove deeper, and I kind of formulated a way to do a little bit of research to nail like the kind of film, the type of camera lens that would be on a family camera.
Yep.
Sometimes I use disposable cameras or Polaroid cameras.
Because you can see it in a lot of these, that it has that warmth, like that film warmth.
Yeah.
And I think that's what a lot of people crave, and they like that look. It gives it that vintage look,
Absolutely. So then I started kind of generating these. I think I started with these kind of 1960s housewives doing dishes type of stuff, and I stretch it more and I stretch it more. And eventually I started getting some really warped ones or some really bizarre ones. They're like nightmare scenes, because you don't have as much control over it as you think you do in the beginning. When you start to realize, when you get too specific, then it kind of falls apart. But if you're too general, sometimes you get machine nightmares, Well,
let's do just like an example, because to be honest, This is all very new to me. I mean, I don't follow a lot of AI art pages. I think the first one I really got into, where I'm like, okay, this is really cool. This resonates with me. I want to reach out to you, But let's look at, I don't know if, how connected are you with each one? Are some of them, kind of just like whatever throwaway ones, or are you pretty connected with each one?
No, yeah, I know them all, because part of it is that I write the stories behind them, right? So there's been some confusion on the page, but basically what I do is I assume the role of a mid to late 60s woman who's going through her old photo albums, right? Maybe she's got maybe she has a touch of, dementia or memory issues. Maybe she's had a couple glasses of wine when she's, commenting, but it was a way to kind of add a layer that was not, some of my posts, the posts that start with my name and then stuff, that's just, hey guys, I'm talking to you. The other stuff is just this very general idea, to give it more than, I didn't want to make a page where I was just posting all of the things without, just here's a dump of images. Some of them are cool, but, I was trying to kind of brand it a bit and trying to kind of give it a bit of a story,
Here's one that really resonates with me, and I know it'll resonate with Emmett and probably a lot of our viewers, honestly. We are big mall fans. We love the mall, and especially anything that screams 80s, 90s, like big fans of it, as I can tell you are. I think that's safe to assume, right? And
that's
looking
my
at
life.
Right here, it says, I'm going to read this as you put, back in my day, the mall was the central hub of teenage civilization. Now it's TikTok. God, I miss the mall. I mean, that's so beautiful. And just looking through these ones really speak to me. These are the pictures where I'm like, that's beautiful. Like there's something to it. It has such an inviting quality to it. It's like looking through old pictures you'd find, of like, ones you had when you were a kid, or like even pictures of your parents where you're looking through and you're like, oh man, this like really speaks to me. And
totally.
Let's talk about the mall ones for a bit. Let's just kind of use that as a jumping off point.
Yeah, so I was born in 1980 in suburbia, which was Pasco County, Florida, which is a small town. And the day I was born was the day that Gulfview Square Mall opened, which was the mall for 100-mile radius maybe. And so it was a big deal. We went there all the time, right? And that's a lot of my early memories kind of come from the mall, being a kid and going trick-or-treating in the mall, or getting an orange Julius or a pretzel,
Because
it's just
trick-or-treating inside the mall.
Yeah. So it was it was like sponsored by the fire department or something. All the stores would come out and they'd give the kids the candy. It's kind of neat.
That's actually really cool. Yeah, I love that.
Yeah, they need to
in
bring it
the
back.
software that you use,
Hmm?
you were you able to put in like that? Can you get that specific of like that specific mall? Would it know what you're talking about or no?
No, not really. And these early models are very, very good at giving you convincing images.
Mhm.
There's some problems with them. I can touch on later. There's a lot that I don't post because there's some things it can't quite get. Sometimes
Yeah,
it works to the benefit, and you get a really kind of weird looking dude that could maybe be real, right? That's my middle ground there. I like those
sure.
pictures that are just a little off, but um, but all of the other things I specify, right? So, a mall interior, maybe the food court or a clothing store.
Hmm.
I'll give it a year because the year. Another part of it is that even the creators of these AIs don't know what the AIs know. They don't understand what it can understand. And
Okay.
apparently, the quickest way to find out what these AI word clouds understand is by generating images so that a human can verify, okay, it understands a banana. This is a banana, right?
Yeah.
Um, so, I'd say they're generally specific, if that makes any sense. So,
Oh,
I'll specify years, locations, maybe even vibes sometimes. But
okay.
sometimes you just got to kind of say a prayer to the AI gods, and every once in a while you get one that's just oh, right, like it's amazing, and it remembers things that I don't. Like, oh, I remember when all these stores in the mall had neon signs, or I remember, so it's in a way it's like we're co-remembering, not to claim it's sentient, but it is a
Yeah.
little, it's just bizarre, right, to be creating art with another artist that you're not really communicating with.
Yeah. Like it's sentient in its own way, kind of, right?
It is. It's like it's almost that it's sentient, but we don't speak the same language, right? But we both really love weird pictures.
So
That makes sense.
could you give us an example of one like just off the top of your head, or even just make one up right now, kind of what you would put in, like kind of how you would create one. Like, let's say you have an idea, right? Not to give away too many of your secrets, but just like
No, no.
how you kind of how the process goes.
Sure. So there's a couple different angles I'll approach it from, but early on, most of those before I kind of I talk about this, that it's been going on for a while. I'm like a month and a half old on this page, even though there's a thousand posts. They're
Yeah.
all still I'm doing like 10 a day, so it's still a very young thing. But
Yeah.
early on is when I was just kind of posting the snapshots and those funny captions with them. So back then, one of two things would happen. Either I would say, here's an idea: a young girl, uh, sad face, eating broccoli, temper tantrum, 1982, and then I'd go into kind of, maybe 50 millimeter lens, slightly out of focus. You don't know exactly what it's going to hold on to and what it's going to understand,
Okay.
but I just keep kind of altering things, and then sometimes when it locks in, that's when okay, this string of things gets me the kind of image I want, and then I can change that upfront part that's just kind of the scene or the characters or things like that. So I try to approach it from that way, but what really happens, half the time is it'll be an old man eating a banana, and it's not what I want at all. And then I'll say, well, this is still a great image. So then sometimes the story comes from the photo. Sometimes the photo generates the story. It's a little bit. It really is like co-creating. It's like
Do you
having a
ever have
writing
some that
partner,
you
and they
just
say,
I'm sorry to interrupt you. Do
"What's
you ever
that?
have
Oh
do you
no,
ever have some that you're just like, no, I'm not posting this, or do you post every single one, or do you have some that you trash?
no." I'd say I post about a tenth of them,
Oh wow, okay.
um, and that's really that's so. If I back up really quick, this might fill in a couple of those holes, but
Sure.
the reason that I got so interested in AI art, aside from it just being cool as hell, was that I I myself, for the past 25 years, have been a professional. Back in my day, they called it a commercial artist, but a graphic designer. Currently, like a senior level art director of a major company. So it's what I do, right? So all of these blog posts and Medium articles and YouTube videos that are saying, is this going to kill artists? Is this going to take over the design industry? Like, a lot of that's hyperbole, but a lot of it is true, right? So I kind of wanted to go inside the beast a little bit and say, what is, like, I want to get this, I want to understand this, and I want to kind of have this heads up of what this is going to mean, not only for my career, but the 50 artists that I manage every day, you know? So that was kind of my entry point to it, was just curiosity at the tech itself, but more than that, just to kind of see, how can I use this? Like, for real, use this, you know? And I'm sure there's some commercial applications so far, but you know, for an actual like professional working designer or somebody who works in branding or marketing, it's not quite there yet. But it's going to be, and it's going to be real soon, you know? So so that's kind of,
I feel like you, where a lot of people would see it as a threat, you kind of went towards the beast and like grabbed it by the horns. And we're like, okay, let's see how we can, you know, learn this and kind of learn to manipulate it.
I mean, we have to, right? Because one of two things is going to happen. You're going to say, oh, okay, artists can use this as a tool, right? This is something that could be useful to me if I'm not as afraid of it, you know? That's true, but also, you know, it is going to change a lot. And I think, you know, one way or the other, we're going to need to be nimble and say, okay, this is coming for my job. I need to pivot, you know, or I need to specialize, or I need to, you know, because that stuff's always going to exist. And what you're going to start to lose are maybe those more entry level positions, or people who make, you know, cool like anime deviant art pieces for people's YouTube headers, or things, you know, not to belittle any of that, but I mean, that's the kind of stuff. Perfect example, YouTube thumbnails. That's where I'm mostly seeing it, right? These weird like generated YouTube thumbnails. And then you click through to see like, what even is this? And it's some like hot slapstick video or something like that, you know? And oh, I coined that. Do you know what that is? I can tell you later.
We coined that. We're gonna fight you.
No, I did research. Sorry, it just happened to be one of the episodes I watched. But, you know, like people are using it to make those, you know, little things, or you know, you read a blog article and they'll credit, you know, Dolly or Midjourney and a person's name. So it's coming and it's happening. And like I said, one of two things: either it's like, oh, okay, this is just another tool, or you know, if you think back to, you know, I'm not hand lettering in my job, right? There are hand lettering artists. It's incredible. God, I wish that was my skill set. But we still have hand letterers, right? We've been using fonts for, you know, I mean, since I started in the industry in the 90s, I remember still using hot type. I worked at a newspaper where we manually rolled all of the type on the lines and put the pinstripes, right? So I saw that technology come, and it was like, you know, people were freaked out because that's a discipline, right? There are people who have amazing handwriting. There are people who, you know, you would commission to write your wedding invitations, right? And now people can just do it on Canva or some app they download. You know, this stuff has always been happening. And I think the difference and why it's such a big deal right now is because it's a paradigm shift. It's completely different. And there's been a few of those in my lifetime. You know, the internet, or you know, even smartphones, right? When the iPhone came out, that kind of, it's in my pocket, the internet, you know, it's a big deal. But for the most part, it's like, oh, a better phone it's faster and it's got a bigger screen, or oh, this TV is 8K, my old one is 4K. You know, it's these kind of incremental shifts, where this was like, I mean, this is straight out of Harry Potter kind of shit, you know? It really is like, you know, it's bizarre.
It is crazy. This is one of those that I feel like I still look at it, and I'm sorry to interrupt you again, but I look at this and like, it is completely mind blowing. I think that's why so many people are just so drawn to it, because it's like, you can't quite piece it together in your mind. You're like, how does this work? It's like, it's still, to me, it's like magic as well. It's just like, I look at this and I'm like, what the heck? Like, how was this not a picture that you took and manipulated? Like, how is this something completely new? How did this not actually take place? You know?
Totally. And you know, it's and people are doing all different kinds of art styles with it, you know. There's one woman I follow, she does like food photography of these kind of fantasy foods that couldn't exist, like cakes with galaxies. It's incredible, you know. It's just a very different you know, if you get an idea that clicks and you can run with it, and you can have your own little corner of it, you know.
Yeah.
But the whole thing kind of feels like, you know, you ever have one of those dreams where it's like, man, I had rocket shoes and like I could fly. And then you wake up and you're like, oh, damn, I wish those rocket shoes were real, right? It
Yeah.
still feels like that to me, where it's like, I really, it feels like we'll wake up and say, oh, you know, that was a crazy dream, because my brain, even though I understand how it works, like, and I'm learning a lot, I'm reading scientific papers that are like above my IQ level. And I still like, I say, okay, I know how, or like I know how a car works, but I don't, you know?
Yeah. I get that totally. It's like one of those things. It's like you get the gist of it, but the finer points of it are still kind of elusive.
And the effect is still sort of beyond you.
Yes.
The effect that it has
Yeah.
on you. Yeah.
That makes sense. So as far as learning this type of thing, if there were people out there who are watching this who might be interested in getting into this, or even just kind of getting their feet wet for like a hobby, where would you recommend starting?
Oh man. So there are three main they're softwares, but they're you know, they're web based, and they're just kind of interfaces for these AIs. But there's the three main ones right now are Dolly, which is what I started with. There's one
Mhm.
called Midjourney, which I'm now kind of currently using in tandem with Dolly.
Okay.
And then a third one called Stable Diffusion, which I've kind of dabbled in, but it doesn't have anything that the other two doesn't have, so I just haven't gotten there yet. Someday I
Okay.
will, but I'm not. I would say that Dolly 2 is the way to go. It's spelled DALL-E, like Salvador Dali, but spelled like Wally, the robot.
Okay.
Um, and they have a form there, and you can sign up, and it's credit based, and they give you, I think, 15 free credits a month, and then to buy them is, you know, I think it's like 115 credits for $15. So it's, you know,
Okay.
it's affordable, and each of those credits will basically let you put the prompt in and see a grid of 4 images, and you can, you know, download those images. They're yours, right? So where the problem happens though is that you get really into it, and it ends up being like a slot machine. You're like, oh, one more, if I roll this one more time, I can get a better nose, or I can get it, you know. And it really, I have to keep that in my mind, like each time I push this button, I'm putting a dime in this jar, you know. But Dolly is the easiest, and has given me amazing results. But really, the interface of Dolly is like your Google search box, and you type what you want to see in that box, and the image appears below it. I mean, it's dead simple.
Oh,
Anybody can do it.
it's so good. I mean, even just looking through these, I mean, truly, truly remarkable stuff.
Yeah.
Do you have a couple just off the top of your head that are your favorites, or is it kind of like, impossible
Oh
to pick?
man,
I mean,
no,
I know
it's
you
not
have so
impossible.
many.
So what's interested me a lot lately has been kind of doing series.
Okay.
And I so the majority of the posts are just kind of the manufactured memories. Each one gets a funny little thing or a little like touching anecdote or whatever, right?
Yeah.
But then I've started doing series. So I found that there were new types of things I was creating that I really loved, but didn't feel like it really fit in with the vibe of those other things. So I started spinning off these series. And one of them, the first one, which is insanely popular when compared to all of my other posts, are called Nancy's Nightmares. And what Nancy's Nightmares are is it's the you know, don't think about the universe or how the magic works in this universe, but basically these are images from this young 6-year-old girl's nightmares. And what I try to do in there is to get you know, it's not about horror, you know. It's not about just seeing how gory or terrifying I can be. I'm really going for just those weird things, you know, those nightmares that you have and you're like, I can't explain it, but it was an egg with legs and it was chasing me and I've never been so scared. You know, just those like something just gets you in a
You
strange
actually
way, you
take
know.
some of your crazy dreams that you've had, like just any random ones, and you're like, I'm gonna try to like take what's in here and put it on the screen. Like, have you actually tried that?
No, because you can't do not safe for work on DAW. No, I'm kidding. Um, not really. I haven't. That's an interesting idea. I have seen a few people that were inspired by these posts, you know, that kind of reached out to me and were asking for tips, which by the way, if anybody wants to know anything, like my process is not a secret. And I know there's a lot of people in the AI community who are kind of hoarding their process a little bit, right?
Yeah,
Which I can understand, but really the
mm,
process here is just that they found a word that works really well.
there's
Um,
Nancy.
and and I'm all about, you know, I'm all about education. I mean, God knows I learned so much from just random YouTubers or,
Yeah,
you know, so I'm all for teaching and putting that content out there. So if anybody wants to know anything, you know, just reach out to me on Instagram. And, you know, I've done it with other people and it's just, there's a really cool community. But I think a lot of people still, you know, it's a little bit like the NFT thing. It
hmm,
started and it was like, oh, this is interesting. And then you had people doing these outrageous, like, I have 5,000 NFTs and they're each, you know, like
yeah,
we're in that phase of it now where the newness is it's almost like a gold rush. Like, how can I could make
yeah,
money from this, or I could do, you know, I could make a girlfriend on here, or, you know, it's just like, that's the era that we're in, you know. So I think that's why a lot of people feel like, oh, I struck gold, you know, I know where the gold's at and I don't want anyone to see the map to my gold. But I'm that's not my gig, you know.
no, it totally makes sense. I really think the dream thing, though, if you wanna jump off that, I think that would be so cool because I think
Oh
so many
yeah,
people have crazy dreams you try to explain, and then it's like, oh, I wish we could see that, you know?
totally. The sorry, where I was going with the people reaching out was about, you know, some people had contacted me and said, hey, do you mind if I do something similar to what you're doing? I'm like, I don't, this isn't my, you know, like
Yeah,
all
Right.
I
yeah,
did was figure out it could be done. Like, go for it, you know, like you
sure.
can't have my URL, but yeah, do it. And, but what they're doing is they're trying to recreate their actual memories, right?
That's
So
cool.
the majority of what I do comes from somewhere, like some tiny truth maybe of something, but for the most
Hmm.
part it's all just, you know, created on the spot. And the more of the posts there are, the more I start to see kind of the edges of how, you know, the kids names change all the time, you know. But it's kind of solidifying, right, over time. But
Yeah,
what this person is doing is trying to make their actual memories of, you know, Uncle Jim coming over and he was wearing a pink suit, or whatever the
yeah,
memory is, like trying to get as close as they can. And something
that's beautiful.
about that sounds really fascinating and really stressed out, you know, really stressful and really hard because,
Yeah,
you know, you just be fighting it the whole time, you know?
exactly.
Yeah. My confusion with that would be the faces. Like you couldn't recreate that specific face of your uncle or whatever, right? And that was kind of
That's
my
true, but
go ahead, go ahead.
no, I'm sorry. I have a bit of a delay. I'm not trying to talk over you.
All
I talk and
good.
then hear you
Same.
talking. So sorry.
No problem.
Um so I've
You were talking about the faces.
yeah, I've dabbled a bit in Dolly Mini, and I think a lot of people have. I've seen a lot of it on Twitter, and it's usually used in like comedy. But of course, that always looks like some almost abstract impressionism. Like there's not really
Mm.
any face; it's just sort of a wash of whatever. And so, full disclosure, I didn't really. I just knew you were an artist. I didn't know what kind. And so, as Ben was swiping through the grid view on your Instagram page, I, I AI didn't even cross my mind. I thought maybe what you had done was like either retouching old photos or like taking new photos. But I thought they were real photos.
Yeah,
Just looking at it from a glance, so it's just insane how photorealistic and the face. Some of the faces are like it looks like a real person, and then obviously some of the faces are strangely distorted. But then yeah, some of the faces are almost like a slight caricature of a human, but it still looks like it's like scary almost. It's like unsettling.
My question for some of these too is like, when you're making it, can you type in like, everything that you want aesthetic wise, and then like, can you put in Whitney Houston, or can you put in like Sylvester Stallone, and it goes for a face that looks like a celebrity's face?
So yes and no. So this is where it gets like a little bit strange, right? There's a lot of discussion, kind of philosophically, legally, in the AI art space about censorship, and who controls that. Because I don't think that these companies necessarily are wanting to censor. The amazing thing about this is it's like a sandbox. It's just this open world, like whatever you can think, you can see it, right? And then some of the companies will say, okay, but you can't say boobies, you can't have that in there because that'd be pornographic. And then people are like, well, but what is pornographic? I mean, art's had naked figures since its beginnings.
Yeah.
So that's one of the discussions. But the other one is exactly what you're asking about, which is faces, right? And whose faces they can and can't be, right? So yes, on Midjourney, you can say, a man standing next to Cameron Diaz, and it will. It's kind of a roll of the dice, but it's either Cameron Diaz or Cameron Diaz's like sister. Okay, so that is possible, but Dolly, I haven't had that kind of success with celebrities' names or anybody that's a recognizable public figure, and that discussion is kind of involves what they want to allow people to make with these, right? Because if I said Barack Obama, fill in the blank, doing something inappropriate, right, and then flooding the all these fake news photos, or a picture like it's a Pandora's box that's already opened. And I think a lot of this is kind of like, oops, like we have to figure out, yes, you can dub a VHS tape to a VHS tape, but now we have to figure out how to make sure people don't do that stuff, right?
Yeah.
So it's a very strange place. I mean, I think people should be able to make political art. I think people should be able to make pornographic art if they want, right? That's not what I'm going to do. But
oh, for sure,
yeah. What the censorship does, though, is while I understand that nobody wants the software creating pornographic images involving children or something like that, because it is text based, and it's not quite smart enough to know what I specifically am trying to do. There's a lot I can't do. Okay, if you scroll through my feed, you can imagine how many times I use the phrase young girl fill in the blank, or young beautiful girl, and they don't understand that I'm trying to create these Polaroids with different types of characters in them, and
it takes it the wrong way, is what you're saying.
Yeah, it does, or it doesn't understand. There's one, if we have a minute, one example. I was trying to. It was Friday, and I was trying to make a terrible pun. And my idea was, okay, I'm going to have like a woman in a bathtub full of French fries, just squirting ketchup all over herself, right? Yeah. Hey, thank God it's Friday, right? That's the kind of weird stuff you can do. So I type in that prompt, and it was in, I believe it was in Dolly, and it says, "I'm sorry, but this uses a word that you can't use. Just completely cut me off there, like roadblock." I said, okay. Well, I do specify it's a woman. Okay, hit it again.
Squirted, right?
And it won't tell you. What's that?
It was squirted, right? It had to be.
It was.
Yeah.
That's what it was. I literally chipped away. I'm like, maybe it's because I want a person in a bathtub. I'm not saying they have to be like nude. That was the final word. So then now guess what? There's no water gun photos you can generate. There's no. It just gets like I think it's uncontrollable, really, you
Yeah.
know, and
Well, now
and
we got
the only way.
golden showers, right?
Hey, but guess what? You know, I've seen photos of Donald Trump's house, and maybe he does have a golden shower. You know, what if you're trying to do something that's, you know, with the same words in a different context? You know,
Yeah.
um,
Unfortunately, Ryan, I haven't used Zoom forever. And I forgot that it's like a paid thing now, so we only have like a minute and 30 seconds left. But I wanted to quickly ask you, have you ever played the game Morrowind from the Elder Scrolls? You familiar with it at all?
no,
It's this
I'm
old game
familiar
from.
with it, but
Have you heard about it in the news lately in relation to AI?
no.
So it's this old game from about 2001. It's like a fantasy thing.
Can we just cancel and start a new one?
We could probably start a new one, but
Okay, cool.
yeah, I'll just finish my thought there. Then
Sure.
if you want to, we can re-up and do it again.
Cool.
It's this old game from about 2001. It's a fantasy thing. It's very like blocky, and some game developer recently ran it through in AI, and it looks like, and they give us screenshots. They send out screenshots of it. And it looks photorealistic. You can look at side by side comparisons, and like you were saying, people are freaking out that like people are going to lose jobs, but I think it can work in juxtaposition to these jobs, and it's stunning. It's crazy. So check it out. We might have to re-up here in a second, but we'll get back to you.
Yeah, and if
Yeah,
so,
no, that's cool.
we'll do a quick commercial break.
Yeah.
Hey, I love it.
What is it about robots that makes them so robotic? At Wayland Industries, it has long been our goal to create artificial intelligence almost indistinguishable from mankind itself. Big things have small beginnings.
When I press this button, a new era in photography begins. Polaroid introduces Sonar Automatic Focusing. This camera sends out inaudible sound waves that bounce off the subject and return in a split second. The lens automatically rotates to perfect focus. You can get a precisely focused picture every time in minutes at the touch of one button. The new Sonar One Steps from Polaroid, the world's simplest cameras.
All right, so let's pick up where we left off. Emmett, go ahead.
So anyway, yeah, just the Morrowind thing. Check it out if you have a chance. It really is incredible. And I mean, ultimately, I think just for players of the game, because they're so used to seeing it one way, and then it looks like, you know, it's like it'll be a bowl, and it's like this little almost, you know, blocky, polygony little bowl. And then, you know, suddenly the AI gets its hands on it. It looks like you can just reach out and grab it. It's like this super realistic thing. So the potential it has for games and for every piece of every kind of media there is crazy.
Oh, the potential it has for games. There's a guy named David Holtz, I think. He's one of the co-founders of Midjourney, and they do this really cool thing on Discord every week on Wednesdays called Office Hours, which is just people submit questions or call in, and they just kind of talk not just about the product itself and where they're trying to take it, but just kind of what we're doing, right? Just philosophizing or thinking about, oh, do you think it'd be able to do like 3D someday? Or, you know, so it's just kind of this this forum. But, you know, he was talking about a world, you know, potentially 10 years from now, where you buy a game console and it just instead of putting games in it, right? It's a dream, you know, it's a seed, almost like a starting point with some rules or something like that, but the whole game is just individualized for every person, right? And it's just kind of creating it in real time, like when I create these images. So yeah, it's gonna be everywhere, you know.
That's absolutely amazing. That was a great question.
Yeah.
I hadn't heard of Morrowind.
Yeah, it's weird. It just happened like the last couple of days, so check it out if you haven't seen it. It's cool.
Yeah,
but
I saw something similar a few months ago where they did the same thing with GTA 5. And, you know, you look at, yeah, it's a bit dated, but you look at it and say, yeah, this is pretty realistic. But they, the result looked like video footage, you know, and it was just so bizarre seeing these, you know, like it's ingrained in my mind what this game looks like, and just seeing the different kinds of reflections or different, you know, it's really bizarre, and it's unsettling, you know. And I think eventually we'll get to a point where it's like, well, I guess everything's weird and that's just how it is. But for right now, you know, it's just it's weird, you know.
Ryan,
But Ben,
you another compliment aside from how great the AI art is. I really like your whole enthusiasm towards all of it. I love your positivity, because sometimes when there's so many things changing, especially when it comes to, you being an artist and things, advancing, it's like you have such a healthy, optimistic approach towards it, which I really respect.
Thank you. I think you have to. Like, look, I started my career back when I started, it had a different name. Like nobody says you're a commercial artist, right?
Mhm.
But I started in the mid 90s and we were, everything was physical. I mean, we did have one computer in the corner that had Photoshop 1.5 on it.
Wow.
But most people didn't know how to use it. The older people were afraid of it, the same way we're doing with the AIs now. And I kind of took it upon myself to like, well, here's the damn manual. Back then they had a book, and
Yeah.
read through it and learn, and that's when I realized like you can't, by the time you graduate with some art degree or probably any college degree at this point, you are already behind, right? Like
Mhm.
you have to constantly be leveling up. You have to constantly be hungry for new knowledge. And you can either look at it as, oh, I have to just keep learning and learning these new programs as they come out, or you can flip it on its head and say, wow, okay, this is a cool new thing. And, how do I get this under my belt too? You kind of have to be that way, or you just, especially, and I don't know how old you guys are, but I'm 42, and um, not being cynical and jaded all the time is a struggle,
Yeah.
because you see enough shit and you're just like, I get it, it's a game, and this is how it works, and okay, but you have to find those things that excite you, and this is one of those things that excites me. So
Yeah, it is tough to not get jaded. Like I'm 20,
absolutely.
I'm 29, he's 27.
Yeah.
It's
And we're still, we feel like,
yeah.
yeah.
Sometimes I feel like a 60-year-old
Yeah.
man with anger issues, I'm just like,
Yeah.
but you
Well,
look at a lot of things, it is hard to not, it's hard to not get pissed off when there's so much stupidity on the internet,
Yeah.
It's hard to look for the silver lining all the time.
absolutely, and even in those kind of like, well, the music we had when I like, that was the good stuff, not this like shit that's coming out now. Like it's always been that, and
Yeah.
I've gotten better at looking at a celebrity and saying like, oh, that this is their Vanilla Ice, or this is their
Mhm.
Milli Vanilli, or this is their, like
Yeah.
it's cycles, and it's like a generational thing. And there's kids that are growing up where this AI art is just going to have always been there. Like my son, who's 11, doesn't understand that tablets didn't exist before he was born.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
It is weird to think of kids growing up with YouTube always being there. Like your son, prime example. Like YouTube is how old now? Over 15, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Over
18,
17,
yeah.
something like that.
Mhm.
So it's like he's always had YouTube. That's like a constant. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it's like our grandparents, like a time before, color TV, or you know what I mean? Like,
Oh, yeah. I mean, I have grandparents that were around at a time before TV,
yeah,
that are
yeah,
still alive. Um, and you just have to find the healthy angle, I guess, because
absolutely.
I remember seeing, I think it was on Vine, so that dates it a bit, but it was a young child, probably maybe 1.5, with an open magazine in front of her, and she's swiping on the page, like trying to figure out why nothing's happening. And that was like equal parts cute and funny, but also just really sad.
Yeah,
And that's what I mean by even the fun stuff you can feel kind of jaded about.
absolutely. That's a prime example. I mean,
Yeah.
that's absolutely perfect.
I
It
remember
was
when the
cute though.
burgeoning thing too. I had this girlfriend in high school, and her older sister had a young daughter. And I remember the first time I saw this little girl, like 5 or 6, with an iPad, and it was like some fish game. She's like touching the fishes, and even then, like the first time I experienced it, I was like, "This is bad." Like immediately, I was like, It should be an action figure or a doll or something." It was right off the bat. I was like, "Ooh."
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I feel like
It,
time and a place, but when it's like all consuming, that's when you're like,
Yeah.
well, and it depends too, because like that tech is like, once something exists, it exists, you know, like this AI, it exists, you know, and unless a solar flare takes us out, like it's here and it's going to get better, and it's the cat's out of the bag, you know. It's not something that can be stuffed back in that box, you know. So but you know, so to have your kid on a tablet, you know, for 5 hours a day, right? It's like, oh, that's probably not a good idea. But what are they doing on there, right? Like, to my wife, you know, she'll see my son, you know, back in the day playing Minecraft, that he's, you know, he's playing his games. But you know, when I started to learn about it and saw what he was reading about, you know, he was building machines, like he was learning concepts of how architecture needs to be structured, and to count a grid out so that, you know, the floor of the house he was building was the right dimensions, you know. So you know, if your kid's watching 5 hours of YouTube videos, you know, they could either be watching unboxing videos of toys, or they could be watching, you know, historical documentaries. Like it's less about the technology. It's just like this AI. It's less about what it is, and about, you know, what people really want to do with it, you know. Which I'm interested in, especially outside of money, right? Like I understand how it's going to change industries and business, but my biggest interest is in people who are doing other cool stuff just to do it, you know, just because, like, here is my art that I'm making, right? Like, do you vibe with this? That's really cool, you know, because there used to be more friction, right? Where you would have to buy all this equipment, or learn how to, you know, spend 40 years being an artist, or, you know, you're kind of, somebody early on had said it's democratizing creativity. And I was like, that's it. That's what it is. You know, it's giving anybody the tools to visualize what's in their imaginations. And how cool is that, you know?
Yeah, that's a good way to think of it.
It is very cool.
And I'm with you on that, because when the Morrowind thing happened, a good friend of mine was like, "Oh, this is terrible for artists. They'll be out of a job." But I didn't even see it as that. I mean, I guess one day we could get to the point where we're lazy enough, where, you know, we're creating a game when you have this AI helping us, and you can just say, like, library, and then there's a library, you know. But for now, it seems like what's happening is it's almost like the artist can still create, and then this AI can really polish it and kind of bring it to life. I'm not a visual artist by any means, but me and my brother are musicians, and my brother Max just signed up for a prescription to this really, really high-end plugin called East West Sounds. So he can make it's essentially just like real instruments that were recorded, and so just really, really high-end samples to make it sound almost like real musicians are playing his stuff. And so he's been, you know, on the computer all day making stuff that sounds like it was created by an orchestra, but he's just doing it all on his keyboard. Cool. He's having a blast. So, like, as a musician, you know, I would want that fully and totally and all the time. It makes my life a lot easier. It makes what I'm imagining sound like it does in my head. As opposed to, you know, like a little synthesizer or whatever. So I would think, to me, that seems similar to what this AI is doing for visual artists, but I think a lot of visual artists are kind of feeling threatened by it.
Yeah, and I get it, you know, like, absolutely, I understand that. You know, what I do is a little bit divorced from that, in that you know, I'm not a like a traditional painter or a fine artist, right? I'm a you know, was a graphic designer, and now I'm an art director, and that basically means I, you know, get all of it together and make it happen. You know, whether we have to go shoot photography, or we have to, like, I kind of oversee all of these things. So in a way, this AI is kind of, you know, I'm art directing these pieces, right? Because I'm deciding, oh, this kind of camera, or this kind of angle. But, you know, if you make your money as an illustrator, like, yeah, you know, that's kind of scary. I totally get it. And you know, I don't know. It's like, it must be what it was like to be a drummer in the 90s, when, like, electronica happened and everyone had drum machines and stuff like that. You know, it's just like, oh, okay, a machine that does what I do.
It is also the medium in which AI seems to be the most applicable, because, you know, people have done AI stories and AI music, but, like, AI stories are just, it's gobbledygook. And, like, Netflix has this whole series where it's like they gave an AI certain plot points or whatever, and it just turns it into this senseless mush, and they make it like a comedy thing. So like the storytelling capabilities are very like, because that's so much more, I don't know, like abstract and difficult for a machine to understand, I think. And music has its place, and people have been interested in the AI music, but even so, it hasn't taken off in the same way that the visuals have. And so I could definitely see that if you're a visual artist, that is sort of a threatening thing, because it's really honed into that more so than anything else.
Yeah, but in the way that a drum machine is different than, listening to Buddy Rich on an old jazz record. It's like I hope and I think we're going to get to the point where it does a different thing, than we're trying to do. Just as, I'll pick a font and throw it into a piece and have it be, and not think about the artist who is out of a job because they're not there like lettering it. It's just I'm so sorry, can you hold on 1 second, please?
Yeah, sure, no problem.
I'm sorry, my dog was trying to come in.
No problem.
I apologize.
I think the thing is, like, what you guys are touching on is just progress in general. Like, think of like, anything becoming automated. Think of computers taking over any kind of job. It's like it happens so gradually. Usually, you don't really feel it. I think a lot of people fear this like Judgment Day, Terminator situation, where it's like everything takes over. But I think a lot of these, if it happens gradually enough, people learn to adapt, and then other jobs kind of are created around those things.
Absolutely. And I was just thinking it was interesting because everyone's afraid of like, it's the old quote, eventually a machine will be bagging our groceries, and that like entry-level job will be obsolete. And we've been afraid of that for so long, but it's attacked and threatened art more quickly than it has any real jobs, I think. I mean, we're starting to see that on a very small level, but not on any grand level like this.
Yeah,
we are, and I think part of it's on us, not like the three of us, but as humanity, to push back when we can. It's because look, if I go to the grocery store, I'm going to go in the line with the cashier. I'm not going to go in that self-checkout, right? Not that I've never done it, but it's not like altruism to support like it's less about that. It's more about I miss that. I like talking to a person. I like I don't know. It's I've been burned enough in my life, just like societally, with like malls going dead, bookstores not being a thing, right? Like these things that we just like. What do you mean there's no mall? What do you mean that you can't go to Books A Million?
What the hell?
Totally. And the technology comes and you're like, oh, cool, this is a Kindle and I can get any book I want immediately. Mm-hmm. And then you don't realize until later, like, oh, I miss the other parts of this that the convenience or the wow factor kind of pushes us away from the stuff that's,
I mean, that's when we go back to all the time, and I'm sure you're right on the same page. It's like video rental stores.
Yeah.
It's you can watch anything you want. I know this is not an original thought. Like everyone talks about this, but like you can watch a gazillion things on Netflix, Hulu, HBO, whatever, YouTube, fill in the blank. But like there was something so nice about going to Blockbuster, going to Hollywood Video, going to whatever local video store you had, and just being like, oh, cool, let's go pick up a pizza and rent a few movies. Like that was like, just like so
that was
perfect.
Every Friday night for us.
Yeah,
totally. And it's like there's the nostalgia part of it that's like, oh, that's those are the old days, but there are also like actual points that perfect example is a local record store that we have here where you can go in there and over time you become friends with the people that work there. They see what you're buying. It's like a human algorithm, right? And then a few more years go by and they say, oh, this new band just came in, you need to hear this. I know you like this stuff, that's gone, and it's replaced with an algorithm that is pretty good at giving me stuff that sounds like the stuff I like. Mm-hmm. But where's the person saying, hey, bluegrass, like, have you tried this? Like, you've never heard this, you might like this, right? Everything we're getting on Spotify and on YouTube is more of like what we already like. And how is anybody supposed to branch out and discover new stuff, you know. So
like
that's a big part of it too. You know, you go in the
it's like an endless echo chamber.
it is. And it's like an endless in almost like internal one, because people don't always understand that they're in them, you know. Like I want that friend to give me some cool tape and be like, hey, you've never heard this shit, but you'd love this is the Pixies. Like, how does that happen now, you know?
There's definitely a hunger for it too, in kind of a different way of like, who did, I think it was Lana Del Rey put out like a freaking 8-track. Like it's just like the novelty of it, but like she released it. And then I saw like Beck's last album, and a lot of artists, you can get, you know, a limited number of cassettes that are out there and things like that. And it's like people are like, you know, I don't know if a part of it is the whole Stranger Things era of people being like, oh, I love the retro. And, you know, I'm not mad about it. You know, it's kind of cool on one hand. It's like I love going into Target now and there's like a vinyl section. Like that's so neat. You know what I mean? It's like I'm not mad about that. If introducing people to music in a different kind of way and keeping it alive, I'm like, that's cool. You know, I like that.
Yeah, I do find myself again coming back to the cynicism, getting kind of jaded about it, because it'll be like, that's not exactly how it was. I was there, you know, like you can't, that shirt's from the 70s, you know, but
that is one thing I will agree with you on 110%. It seems like they fuck up, pardon my French, the era a lot. And what I find so weird is that how can they fuck it up so bad and make it look so stupid when there's like evidence of it in hundreds and thousands of videos and like I'm like, how are you messing this up? Like, you know, you're getting it completely wrong. And it's like there's a lot of Netflix shows that do it. There's a lot of movies. It seems like this is something we talk about all the time. It seems like no movies can take place in the present now. They all have to be in the 70s or 80s now.
But it's like this cartoonish 80s where everything is like primary colors.
But they can't quite get it right. And like, how can you not get it right? There's like, you can go back and look at pictures and videos. How are you fucking this up? You know?
They must have young people working on the shows, you know? Or they don't care, you know? And when I think about the 50s, like, I don't know that the 50s were really full of like poodle skirts and sock hops and soda jerks. Like, but that's the stuff I know from it. So when I watched, you know, that 80s, 50s stuff, I assumed that that was accurate, you know? Maybe it's the same thing.
In my mind, the 1950s were 1955 Hill Valley, and it was everything that Marty McFly showed us. those were the 50s, man.
It's that and totally that and Happy Days, you know, like that was.
But yeah, I'm really glad you mentioned that too, because that's something we see a lot where it's like, how are you messing this up again? Like you can go back and look at what it actually looked like. Like how are you fucking up the 80s in new shows? You know? But anyway, one thing.
But you know.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna close that loop and say that you know, anything that brings kind of the past back a little bit, you know, I'm all for. The fact that my kids like the Stranger Things nail the 80s all the time. No. Do I like to watch it as a fun? Yes. And guess what? My kids are walking around the house singing Kate Bush songs, you know, from like there, you know, that's if it's turned you on to something, you know, a concept or an idea, something that's outside of your normal thing, that's cool, you know.
I do agree with that. And same with like Guardians of the Galaxy, bringing back some of the songs from the 70s and stuff like that. It's like, that's cool. It's like, you know, a lot of people comment on that in YouTube, you know, comment sections. It's like, oh, you know, who cares how you're here as long as you're here? And it's like, that's true. It's like, you know, it's like if there's a new generation coming up on, you know, discovering these things, it's like, that's amazing. Instead of just, you know, letting it die or get forgotten. It's neat to see things get, you know, reinvigorated, you know?
Totally. Especially now, everything's always recorded now, right? Where back then we had, you know, only had 24 shots, so you spent them very carefully, you know, and only some of those survived, and only some of those got scanned. So it's like we're helping to preserve that part before we started dumping everything on social media, you know.
That's true. Now, Ryan, before we forget or get too far along, I have a request for you, and if you'd like to do it, I'd be very honored. I was wondering if we could give you a few words, and if you could, in a few days or whenever, potentially make a AI art for us, an unfazed AI art piece for us.
Yeah.
Would you be down to do that?
I'd be totally down. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Do you want to?
As long as nobody's squirting anything.
No, we're not squirting anything.
No squirting. That comes later. That comes later.
So obviously, so we can't get too ultra specific. That seems to be the main thing, right? It has to be generalizations.
Yeah, I mean, kind of, but we can try. Like, there's no harm in trying them. You know what I mean? It's just sometimes you kind of get disappointed. Like it should know this.
Almost
you know,
there. I don't even if it's a Picasso mess. I'm down for it. So how many words do you usually throw? Usually like 5 or 10 or 15 or how? What do you usually? What's your average one if you had to pick?
Oh man. So the average ones for me are kind of longer because I have kind of I've gotten real fancy and I have a text doc that kind of has some of the variables I use a lot, like, this camera or this kind of film or this, type of location.
Sure.
So I have a lot of the majority of the prompts are to get it to look like it's old. Okay. But the content itself, usually less than 10 words, it'll just be a very kind of basic idea.
Okay. Should we do it for fun? We just throw out words that we think sum up unfazed right now, or should we give it to you later and then we like add it to the end of the video? What do you think?
What do you think?
What would be better for you? I mean, we could always say them now, and then I can text them to you later.
I'll write them down if we do it now. But whatever.
Yeah.
Because I have. You're talking about talking about the words, right? Not
words.
Yeah. So we'd come up with the words right
totally.
now, and then, in a few days, if you want to send us the. Okay. So how about we just literally put in. Okay, I'll let you do it. Okay, so how about for the first word, we literally put in unfazed. 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 See what it thinks.
All
See
right.
what it says. Unfazed. And let me know if any of these are too difficult for the system. If they're like, it won't get that or whatever.
Yeah, the thing is, I don't know. That's like no one really knows. It's just kind of.
Emmett, you do it. We'll just go back and forth until we have 10.
Well, I was thinking, a lot of our happy days and our nostalgia comes from the 90s. So I was thinking that's like, because you're always being on the era. So I don't know, 1990s. I don't know how you would put that in, but
All right.
Yeah.
Early 90s or late 90s?
Well, kind of an amalgamation.
Okay.
Yeah, I would say. I mean, because we were pretty little kids in the late 90s, but it spilled over into the culture. Let's say late 90s, just for the fun of it. Let's say late 90s.
All right, you got it. That's when I graduated high school.
Thank you. Very nice. Very nice. Prime time. Freaks and Geeks era. Well, when the show came out. Okay. I'm gonna say we do like a lot of creepy stuff. So I would say if you want to throw in maybe like paranormal. That would be a fun buzzword. Okay. We'll put that in paranormal. All right, Emmett.
All right.
Ooh. Okay. I'm thinking of our old script. And I'm thinking of like Sonny the Psychic Son. Do you think it would understand mascot? Is the word mascot?
Sure.
Like a sports mascot?
Okay, cool.
Yeah,
cool.
I actually think I've used that before. I had one that was a sports mascot on a football field of an eagle. So yeah, I think it gets it.
Okay, cool. Let's see. How about podcast? We'll put in the word podcast.
Wow, it's a lot of interesting words.
Are y'all a podcast or a vodcast? Is that not a word anymore?
We just say podcast. But I think essentially it's
I know.
Podcast. I don't know. It's a bunch of hot stuff.
I'm trying to like imagine what the picture will be as we're putting all the words in. I'm like, what the hell?
Yeah. It's gonna be a mess, but I love it.
Yeah.
All right.
A podcast about a ghost mascot.
Yeah. Late 90s paranormal mascot podcast.
It's gonna be a mess. I love it.
Do you ever put in like the time of day, night or day, or dusk or anything like that?
Oh yeah. Totally, all the time.
Twilight.
All right.
Thank you so much.
But if a vampire turns up, that's why.
Oh,
totally
yeah.
We'll get it. If that doesn't work, we'll make it dusk.
Okay.
I like
figure it out.
My favorite time. Both our favorite time of day. Right?
Yeah,
is that your favorite time of day too, Ryan?
Too.
You seem like a dusk guy.
It is.
I can just tell you.
I am a dusk guy.
Yeah, dusk is where it's at. Mornings make me cringe.
Yeah, same.
Ah, you're a like-minded fellow. I like it.
It's
Let's
always
go.
good when you're like about to go to bed soon. You know, that's just a nice vibe. You're
And
like, hey, I
I
get to
love
go to bed
stretching
soon.
that
Oh.
time out as much as I can, especially if I have work in the morning, because it feels like I'm like I gotta enjoy every second of this night because as soon as I close my eyes, I'm gonna wake up and I gotta go to work. You know?
Oh yeah, that's me every Sunday night. Yeah.
Yep, literally. Well, let's go with something that I know all three of us adore and that manufactured memory touches on very often. Let's just go mall. Let's go mall.
I was
All right.
okay.
Yeah. Okay, and then Emmett.
I'm gonna go with skateboard.
Okay.
All right.
Maybe it'll put the mascot on the skateboard. I don't know.
That'll be fun. Yeah, I like that.
Maybe.
I
Skateboards are kind of funny. Skateboards are one of the things that there's a few things that just can't really do. And I'm not. It's bizarre things like a skateboard. You're like, oh, it's just a plank and wheels, right? But it'll be like just one big wheel, or it's just floating, or it's one giant roller skate. I'm like,
I like it. I want it to be kind of weird and bizarre.
Yeah. It's gonna be.
What are we at? So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, so one more each. How about this? How about we ask Ryan? Ryan, I don't know how deep you went into our channel at all, but what was your first impression of us, good or bad? What was a word that came to mind? I won't be offended.
Oh, hot slapstick.
Hot slapstick. Throw it in. Let's do it. Hot slapstick. We can put we'll count that as one. If you want to do those as two separate words, whatever.
Well, we have a mascot potentially on a skateboard, so maybe it'll make him falling over.
Ooh,
you never know.
Could be fun.
I don't know how smart this thing is.
All right, Emmett, you grace us with the last word.
Let's say VHS.
I love that.
Maybe it'll be VHS quality. Maybe he'll be holding it. I don't know. But either way, it's gonna be good. I have the most as well. So
all right, cool. So that would be an honor, Ryan, if you could do that for us. And then we'll probably post this in a few days, so literally no rush. But what we'll do is here we will insert the final product. Let's let the audience just look at the beauty here. Just check it out. And we'll also add it at the end too, so people can really look at it. And of course,
it on the screen right now?
It is.
It is on the screen right now.
Well, then I just want to say it turned out much better than I expected, and it's glorious. And
it's pretty.
I'm glad we were able to create this together.
I'm very impressed. You did a fantastic job, and I'm gonna actually probably frame this. This is really good. This is really, really good. Very interesting. A lot going on, but somehow it channeled our energy nicely.
Yeah. And what I'd like to do is I'd like to post it on my page and link back out to your podcast. That'd be cool.
110%.
We would be honored. Yeah.
And what I'm going to do too on this video, manufactured memory is going to be in the description, and also I will have a pinned comment there. So go support Ryan. Check out the stuff that he does. Do you have any other links you want to shout out?
No, not currently, but this is kind of my passion project at the moment. I've jumped around a lot. I've done music and comedy and all different things, but this is my jam right now. But I will say that I'm sorry?
When you said comedy, have you done stand-up comedy or comedy writing, or what have you done?
Yeah. Awesome. Yeah. I was a stand-up comedian. I was in an improv troupe.
Nice.
And I did. I had a sketch comedy public access show when I was 14 years old.
Wow!
So all kinds of comedy.
Well, what was it called? Well, if we could find any clips of it, what was it called?
It was called The Sidewalk Cracks, and it aired at 10 o'clock Monday nights on TCI Cable Channel 5.
Wow, that's awesome!
Is sweet. That's very cool.
It was in the early 90s. Before YouTube, right?
That's incredible. So sorry, what were you gonna say?
No, I was gonna say, I guess the one thing that I would kind of plug is that I am working on, because people keep asking me, like, there's nothing to sell really. I just want to like do cool shit and meet other people that like to make cool shit. It's kind of like, that's what makes me go. But people kept asking and DMing me, so I have started a Redbubble site, and I'm trying to like concept. What's that?
Awesome.
That's
Yeah,
great.
and I've been, but it's not live yet, but I'm trying to concept like what would be cool. Is it like, do people want 3x3 art prints of these, or like a fridge magnet? Like I could do a shirt or whatever, but it'd be great to do. One idea I had is a coffee mug of all. I used to do this series on Mondays of like old grumpy women holding their coffee, and I would just post something about, oh, it's Monday, God. Just a mug of all of those. There's cool stuff I want to do with it, and it's not live. But
I think you should go that route when it does become live. Just being a fan of your work, I would love to see the magnets. I'd be all on board for a wacky magnet. Like that would be so cool. I think that would be, magnets would be great. Coffee mug, great idea. Shirts, I don't know if shirts would be good, but I think the bread and butter would probably be the magnets and like the ability to have prints.
Redbubble has like nice like matte posters and stuff like that. That would be the way to go too, for sure.
But I think do all of the above and see what resonates with people the most. But your stuff definitely is great and eye-catching, and I think it's just going to keep getting better and better, honestly, dude.
Thanks, I appreciate it. Like I said, this technology is young. The project is young, and it's I started posting them on Instagram just to have them somewhere that I could send my friends a link to, so they could see what I was doing, and it just kind of it just grew from there very rapidly. So it's cool to find other people who are into like technology and nostalgia. It's like a weird overlap of all the latest stuff and all of the old stuff. So yeah,
that's very cool. Now, since you have quite the interesting artistic background and comedy background, and you're such a creative guy, and you have a great personality talking to you, do you think you'd ever do like a YouTube channel, like highlighting the kind of stuff you do artistically?
Okay, so this is something that I'm currently thinking about, because here's the deal. Instagram is really the only platform to really share photography on, like on a large scale. There's, we had Flickr back in the day, was huge, but it's just like there's the most people to find you there. But what's happened with Snapchat and TikTok and kind of the videoification of everything, even Instagram, like they don't care about the photos, right? Like they're not like that used to be the bread and butter, and now it's just kind of it's still, there's a tab for that, but they want me to do stories, they want me to do reels, and I do, I've made some, but I've been thinking about what does that video piece of it look like, so that'd be a lot of fun.
That'd be cool.
That's amazing. Well, Ryan, thank you so much, man. I know it's late where you're at, but I really, really, truly appreciate you doing this. I know it was just me, some weirdo, reaching out to you on Instagram, but I'm really glad you were on board for this. It's super cool. And hopefully, some of our followers can spill over and become some of your followers. And you'd be welcome back anytime, dude, because it was really, really great talking with you.
Thanks. You guys too. And, if anybody has any questions or like wants to get deeper into it or wants to like hit me up, I'm just a dude, so if you find my Instagram page, just send me a message. You might be some weird dude, but you're some weird dude that gave me an opportunity to talk, so
and I think deep down we're all weird dudes, so it works.
Yeah, we'll of course link all your Instagram and everything into the videos.
Yeah, links below, guys. Make sure you support Ryan and check out his stuff. And Ryan, thank you. Remain unfazed.
Thank you so much, man. It's awesome.
Thank you. All right, I'll be in contact in a few days with this image.
Sounds good.
Thank you.
All right,
so exciting.
Thanks again.
All right.
Have a good night.
Take it easy.
Take care. Bye-bye.